this afternoon. I'm Tina Friend, your city manager, and I recognize so many faces in the room because we've been on this journey together now for how many years? 3, 4, I mean many, many years. And so just taking a moment to let it settle in that after we had one phase of the project, and then we restarted that after we heard a lot from the community that we wanted to really take a sharper look at the design. We wanted to make sure we're being very inclusive with our feedback and make sure we're getting the best possible opportunities for Cays Park. So we brought Schmidt Design Group on board, and then from that point we went through another phase where we gathered a lot of community feedback. We came up with 4 project alternatives. You've all seen that and spent a lot of time with those, offered a lot of public comment. And then it was December, I think we talked to council, November?
December 5th.
December 5th, thank you. You know that date. And then December 5th, we came back with 4 different options. And with your feedback and council feedback, we were given direction to the Schmidt Design Group to produce one preferred plan option. So, and I'm sure Glenn will go through this in more detail, but so really the purpose of today is really the great reveal of the preferred plan option, which is really the culmination now of years and countless hours and comments and feedback by all of you to really come up with the best possible design we can for Cays Park. So it's a very exciting afternoon. I know you can see all the boards turned around. I can't wait till those get flipped and we get to see the renderings more. But before I turn it over to Glenn Schmidt, the principal of Schmidt Design Group, and who's really led a just amazingly inclusive and productive and beautiful design process, I really, from the city of Coronado, want to thank you so much for all of your engagement, for hanging on through all those years, endless meetings, a lot of charrettes and conversations. But I really feel what we're seeing is really led and born out a lot of conversations, discussions, sometimes disagreements over what's in there. And so I'm just thrilled to be here. So on that note, I'm very happy to turn it over to our main presenter of the afternoon. As Mr. Glenn Schmidt, you know him well by repute, an amazing regional, national, statewide park designer, and has been our architect and a navigator through this journey. So Glenn, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Tina. Hello, everyone. Great to be here today. I'd like to thank Tina and her staff, Tim, Tony, everyone has been so supportive, our council members and their great direction, but all of you and all the time you've all spent with this. So we are gonna, here's the agenda. Tina provided our introduction. I'm gonna just go really kind of quickly through our process that Tina just described. I'm gonna go through it in more detail about how we got here through our feedback, and then I'm gonna present to you our draft Cays Park Master Plan. This is a draft and it's out, it will be out for public review from today. We're gonna ask for your feedback after a presentation that will be about 15 minutes or so. We'll break up and ask you to come look at our boards that you can see this up close and provide us comments. We'll have these comment cards for you. Please feel free to write your comments down. It'll also be posted on the city's website later this afternoon, I believe, along with this presentation and video, which will be posted on Monday. So lots of time for you to give us feedback. From today, we will go to the Cays HOA on Monday the 18th at 11 a.m. That will be our next presentation. And then we will meet with the Park and Recreation Commission on April 18th, at 3:30. And then we will go to City Council for their consideration and direction. Sometime in May is when we're anticipating going to Council. So with that, let's go through our process. We had 3 phases: discover, explore, and vision. The discover was listening, learning, develop 4 alternatives was the explore. We had those 4 alternatives that we got a lot of feedback on. And then we went into the next phase, which is we call the vision, which we took all that feedback and created one preferred alternative. As you probably recall, we started this about a year ago with lots of different stakeholder meetings. We had a citywide survey that gave us a lot of information, statistically accurate information, and then we presented these 4 alternatives. And these 4 alternatives were very, very detailed. And we did that for a reason. We did that so that you had lots to look at, lots to comment on, both pro and con. And we got a lot of feedback. We also presented 4 different alternatives for themes for the park. We got feedback on that as well. And we collected all that kind of last fall and had hundreds of emails, almost 800 written notes. We had a lot of feedback and took all that into consideration and then brought that to the city council. We did that through a series of different workshops. Many of you were at these, from a pop-up on the park to a pop-up, what we call it here, onto the HOA, to the Park and Rec Commission in November. We had the master plan and boards out at the community center for a significant amount of time, and then that city council meeting on December 5th. And on that meeting, the city council, we gave them a lot of questions, and they gave us very specific direction, 18 items here. And I'll go through those 18 items. And so this is really the scope of work for our design. This is what we took and created a design based on this feedback. First is, and by the way, if it's okay, I'll run through this presentation. If you can hold your questions, and then we'll just break up and you'll be able to chat with you for as long as you like. So the first is that active turf area for organized sports. 75% of the existing field space. The theme, natural and cultural wonders of the Strand. 3, the dog park. The request was to elongate it. The folks that we heard from that are interested in the dog park wanted it to be about 800 feet long. We got really close to that. I'll show you all these things in great detail. The tennis and pickleball courts, to leave them about where they are now, but add 4 more pickleball courts and return one of the pickleball courts to tennis. So I ended up with 4 tennis, and then that would be 8 pickleball courts in the end. Remove the cul-de-sac. This is one of our bigger moves that we suggested. Remove the cul-de-sac that's near the fire station to open up more room for recreation. No significant change to parking. We are proposing to offset some of the parking that we lost when we took away that cul-de-sac, but we end up with very similar amount of parking that's there currently. Create an improved children's play area with ADA accessibility accommodations for children of all abilities. Number 8, we're almost halfway there. Include a softball backstop, but not a skinned infield. Provide a full court basketball. Add fitness stations or fitness hub. We've mostly created stations, and I'll show you how that works around a walking, jogging loop. Include a sunset view deck or hill, and we would reduce the existing, the size of the existing wall along the west side for a portion so that opens up views from that deck. Include tasteful pedestrian security lighting, providing lighting for courts, but not permanent ball field sports lighting. Include a flexible open turf space to hold community events. Include an area for turf for informal picnic and play separate from the fields used for organized sports. And we have what we call a little pocket park that accommodates that. Include opportunities for public art. Include 1 improved larger restroom. And minimize view impacts by clustering trees at the kind of core of the park, kind of near where the current cul-de-sac is, minimizing trees north and south of that to maintain views, and provide shade structures, including that are utilizing fabric, but the idea is that these would be low profile, so they would block the least amount of view. So that was our charge. And so this is what we have come up with. This is our draft master plan. And also the theme, the natural cultural wonders of the Silver Strand. We use that as kind of a guidelines for many of our concepts and ideas. So you can see the birds. Well, we have shade structures that are inspired by the birds in the area. We have sails, which are inspiring the sail fabric that we're using for our shade structures. We have mounds, the dune mounds, or the midden mounds from the Kumeyaay. We have some mounds, low mounds throughout the design. We also incorporated some of our suggestions that seemed popular in incorporating some of the elements from the caves, such as white stucco and some of the handmade artistic tiles, incorporating those into the design. And then a lot of ideas for interpretive education that relates to the history of the Strand, the cultural and the natural wonders of the Strand. This is a simulation, an aerial view of that plan. And you can see our big move in the middle here is to remove that cul-de-sac that opened up some areas to create a nice space for the core. And I'll kind of go through it one by one. So our field space is 5.8 acres, down from about 7.5 acres. And you can see that we accommodated 3 fields, which is basically the 3 fields that are out there now. There's a 4th field that we are not accommodating. And that's on those large open spaces there. We also, the council asked us to create a place that's separate from those fields. It'd be used for more passive picnicking and activities. So what we looked at is on the north side, there's a triangle that's just turf right now. And we thought if we could make that a more passive turf, kind of what it is now, but adding a little structure there and putting shrubs around it so it softens it and keeps it a little bit separate from the street. And then in this area, we also thought, we're kind of showing it very abstractly, but what if there's some art there? Would it be maybe a mural on the wall, for example? Something that creates kind of an interesting centerpiece and accent for that little pocket park. So we've accommodated that request there. On the south side is our off-leash dog park area, which is where it is currently. And the request was 800 feet. We got 735. We're pretty close to that. And then we also had it wider before. We kind of narrowed it based on feedback that we had on that. The existing park, dog park area is 1.5 acres. This is 2 acres, but about 1.88 acres is the sidewalk and turf. So we didn't count that, or we just want to separate that shrub area that's not really meant for active dog activity. And this is kind of zooming into that area all along the west wall on the south side there. And you see that we do have like a little structure here. Again, this fabric sail structure, kind of tucked up close east so that the homes on their side can look over it. But create a little shade place, a little place for social activity. And then we have little bulb outs along the wall here for benches and picnic tables. And we have also a mount that kind of creates a spot where you can stand. So the arrow here is, the next shot is a simulation from ground level of what that will look like. So this is looking northwest from that arrow that I just showed you. So you can see a little turf mound, and as you recall, one of the directions was to add a fence, but to try and bury that in shrubs. So this is that fence with the idea that you might see it a little bit, but it's going to be buried in the shrubs. So it won't feel like it's a very much kind of a fenced enclosure. It's a very soft edge to it. One of the central interesting aspects of the design is this central core. We call it sunset deck or night sky deck, plus a kite hill. So if we zoom in on that, we have this deck. The existing wall right now runs along here, then it turns east, right angle. And from here it climbs up. From here it's about 42 inches, about the height of a guardrail. And then it turns here and it climbs up to 8 feet starting here. So what we're proposing is to lower that wall and to have it be a wall along this side, but then as it grows over toward the side, it would have guardrails to be more transparent. And then this area that is about 20 feet between the existing wall going west is city property. So what we're planning to do is take advantage of that and create this kind of crescent-shaped deck that juts out into that space. And the land out here drops away in a slope. So as it goes out there, it's suspended higher than the grade to the west. We also have a couple really fun, interesting suggestions or ideas. This is kind of showing some lines that represent the idea, but the idea here is that we would have little lights in the deck, and because it's suspended like that, we will be able to get under it to maintain them. In configuration of constellations in this area at the winter solstice. So kind of a fun element that's very subtle but interesting, artful detail. We have benches here. In this area, we also have a couple little node activities where we can have different types of seating. And that's a little bit elevated, so you can look over the wall here. And so we have kind of multiple spaces where people can hang out, enjoy the view, enjoy the sunsets and such. And then right behind this is a turf mount. So that's turf. And then all of this would be low-level, native, naturalized Mediterranean plant material, pollinators and such. So create an interesting set of pathways. And these are all decomposed granite pathways that run through here with benches and turf vegetation. And you'll see we've also shown with these dashed lines, we want to have those have subtle mounds that kind of remind you of the dunes out on the strand. And then this is a section. So if you look at the section cut right through the middle of the deck here, looking north, you can see that the way that the deck will cantilever out. And then out, and this is the Silver Strand bikeway and the highway here. At this level here, we can put a security fence there that would keep people from being able to access the deck. And we would run that all the way to the wall on either side, but it's below your view. And there's a funny design term called the ha-ha wall. It was established during English garden design, where they would put fences in little low trenches so they would borrow the views of the pastures beyond. So that's kind of what we're doing here. We're lowering that wall, we keep that fence, so we're making it be secure, but you're not going to see it from the park side. And then you can see the little knoll cut hill there as well. So that's zooming in. It starts to get a little fuzzy. Sorry, it's a little fuzzy, but that's that space here that I just described. And this, by the way, is the corner where we have that backstop that was requested by council. And then we also have an on-grade view here from where that red arrow is, and this is what that might look like. You can see the way that we open up views to the ocean and beyond, and create a great place for people to hang out and enjoy the proximity to the ocean. The next area is the children's play area, which I'll zoom in on, and that is has some interesting elements. Again, kind of connect to place. We have resilient rubber surfacing that you can create patterns in it, and we actually have the Coronado Islands as a design in the playground safety services. We can even create little mounds with those islands as well. And what this is enclosed with low-level kind of rustic fence to kind of corral the kids and keep them and make sure that there's it's easy to monitor 3 entrances, one here, and one here. So it's easier for parents to keep track of kids. But those, again, will be kind of buried in the shrub area, so you won't really see them in really great evidence. And then we have shade canopies for a picnic here and here, some shade inside it as well. And then just some ideas for kind of playground structures we might include. And as we get into toward the final design and final drawings, once City Council is able to fund the project, we'll know more about what playground equipment is available at that time, because it's ever evolving. But just generally as a theme, we like to create something a little more natural character, and that was something we heard from folks as well. So we would like to incorporate some wood, if possible, but also some structures that are kind of wood-like in their character. And there's also inspiration. This is the Kumeyaay Iwa homes that were in this area, and so there's little elements that might suggest some history of this place like a little nest, so something that's kind of more natural is kind of generally where we're proposing to go with the playground equipment. And that's an aerial from there, showing the playground. And then this is, sorry, from the red area there, this is a view of what that might look like as you approach the children's play area from the south going north. And then we were asked to create fitness stations. And what we've done is there's actually almost exactly a half-mile loop, which is shown in yellow there. So you can walk and jog that half mile. And we like to propose that there have little artful mileage markers in that loop that again can connect with the Silver Strand and elements of it. We have 4 different spots where we've located some fitness stations. Here is one each here and here and here. And then we have a little bit of a larger one with perhaps 3 elements there. So we have up to 6 different stations around the park, and these are the type of equipment that's available. Again, depending on when we implement this, there could be other types of equipment that we might specify at that time, but this is the character of what we're proposing. Then going to the north there in the court area, we have, as I mentioned, 8 pickleball courts and 4 tennis courts. There's also, the city requested a storage building and yard. Then we have an extra yard for what's now is like storage for the league, for goals and other elements. So this is an aerial of that area. As you recall, this court currently is pickleball, and that would be returned to tennis. And then this is the existing pickleball court. We would just add 1 pickleball court area with 4 courts to the west of that. And then beyond that, kind of hidden behind those screens in the tennis and pickleball would be the maintenance areas. So this is the maintenance building that the city requested, and yard, and then another yard here for other storage. Both these would have large sliding gates, and can accommodate traffic to bring equipment in there, in and out. And also, we have some of the shade fabric over the area to the north of the pickleball, between pickleball and tennis here, to provide social spaces for people to interact and to rest. and the building here would only be about 6 inches higher than the tennis fence curtains. So we're trying to keep it really low profile, so it's not going to be really in anyone's views. We also incorporated the basketball court here, and we were proposing some fences on the north and south to keep balls from getting out into the shrub-bed areas, but that's accommodated there. Then the central core area of the park is kind of your arrival and what you really experience when you first enter the park. And zooming in on that, we have some really interesting elements. This arrival court, you see I'll talk a little bit about parking in a second, but we do have this whole area which is loading and drop-off with this kind of arrival court. And we have poured-in-place walls here for seating, and then we have these areas for picnic tables, and we could perhaps have game tables, like chess tables and things in there. So kind of a place to congregate. And then we have an expanded restroom there at the current restroom location, just turned. And I'll show you an example of what we're proposing there. Here on the west here, we have this area that is very informal, kind of quote amphitheater, which is a little bit bigger area of shade. We have picnic tables and things, but that also could be like a little stage if you have a small performance of some sort, for example, there. And that was one of the requests from council as well. And then, let's see. So this is a view of what that would look like with the little event going on there, that little amphitheater that I was describing. Then we also have a ground level view of this one from that arrow right here. So this is what that might look like as you enter into the park. You can see the open fields to the left here. And what you can see here too is we're elevating the children's play area a little bit. They kind of purchase it a little bit above the fields, which is going to create a little bit more of a separation, but not dramatic. And that also is part of that idea of elevation and mounding. And then we also have these poured-in-place walls, which are shown in red, which act as seating, and we can have some with backs on them as well. And this is an example of one that we did at Cays Park in Savita, where we collaborated with a public artist to do the tile work. So we're imagining that a lot of your hand-painted tiles you have throughout the Cays could be decoration on these walls. And so you can see kind of this idea here, the walls would have that colorful, interesting element to them. Again, connecting to the Cays and Coronado. And then you see we have the restroom off to the right there. And what we've done is we received a lot of feedback that people really like the restroom at Spreckles Park. So in essence, what we're doing is we're creating a very, very similar restroom as that. So it is family style with 5 units on each side, so 10 units total. And this is what that could look like. This is a prefabricated structure, the firm that we work with. But just like there's interesting tile opportunities on the Spreckles restroom, we added little orange accents here where that could be mosaic tiles or something really interesting to make it a really beautiful structure, as beautiful as restrooms can be. And it would be white stucco to match Coronado Cays. And then you probably notice these structures, these shade structures around. And what we're proposing is to incorporate shade structures with fabric that have kind of an abstract bird shape to them. And if you see that, you'll see them kind of flying in formation toward the ocean. So we felt like that's something you see all the time on the Strand. We thought it'd be a neat design element, but also very functional, provide shade for folks. And then some of the nuts and bolts of parking. We reconfigured the parking lot. Now it kind of extends into a triangle out toward that cul-de-sac. So we've kind of turned it on its side. And we have 53 spaces here, plus 7 drop-off spaces that I described. And then what we did is, again, something that we had presented to you before, is that this little narrow concrete median element narrows the road enough that you can't have parking where that occurs. So we're proposing to replace that with just painted lines, and then being able to add parking on the street. So we remove it where these 2 red lines are, and then add parking on the street where these green lines are. And in terms of total parking, right now, let's see, we have 136 spaces between on-site, off-site, right there at the park. And what we're ending up with is 108 spaces plus the 7 drop-offs. So it's just a little bit more parking, just a little bit more, but it's very similar to what is existing. And then, of course, removing that cul-de-sac makes a big difference in the park design. In terms of trees, that was a very important issue with a lot of folks. We're proposing to be pretty light-handed with trees. There is an area through that central core, and we did some view studies. It seems like we wouldn't be causing a lot of issues with view blockages right in the core, like right where that cul-de-sac is. But north and south is very sensitive. So we're showing some more trees, but in the end, actually, we're planting, we're replacing some of the trees that will have to be removed. But in the end, we're actually going to have very similar, a little less trees than what are existing now. You see at the bottom there, we have a total of 73 trees, 39 are shade, 34 are palm. What our plan is showing is 46 shade trees and 21 palm trees. So very, very similar. And then, and as you look at the plan, you'll see where we're considering placing those. In terms of lighting, tasteful security lighting on poles or bollards, low bollards. Again, no permanent ball field lighting. And then just getting back to our where all this inspiration came from. We also are proposing to have quite a bit of interpretive education. We're showing a number of places where interpretive panels can go, and there's lots of ways in which we can design that to be interactive and artful, and we look forward to including those kind of details. And then just generally, there's opportunities for public art in many different ways. And I see that as kind of a separate process through your Public Arts Commission or your private entities to determine what that might be. We're not proposing what art would be there, but we have some artful elements and some opportunities. And I mentioned the idea of tiles. We were really kind of taken by the handmade tiles, the interesting tiles throughout the Cays. So that could be a really neat thing that really brands this as Cays Park. And we could do that. I showed that spot where we were showing in the walls, or the restroom. There's maybe other opportunities. Maybe that mural that I described is a mosaic. Also, like sculpture discovery, we did that, I think, pretty effectively at Savita Park in Mission Valley, where you discover art. And that's a really interesting and inspirational in a lot of ways. So that might be a way to layer in artful elements. I mentioned mileage markers. We just had an opening for San Diego State University Mission Valley, the 34-acre first phase. That has a hike and bike loop that's 2 miles around the perimeter of the campus. And what we did is we actually worked with the Kumeyaay Nation and depicted in mosaic patterns the plants that were important to their history and are still important to their history. And this was an artist through a Hubble studio. And we have these every quarter mile around the perimeter. So could we incorporate some sort of medallion or artful element on that half-mile jogging and walking loop in the park? Is something that we would propose. I mentioned this mural opportunity, perhaps. I mentioned the artful shade structures, and then the kind of night sky deck idea as well. So there's lots of different ways we incorporate public art, and maybe there's more that we haven't thought of, and we look forward to that dialogue going forward. The city asked us to look at how this might be phased and what it might cost. So we have three different phases that we're showing. Phase 1 being the dog park and the deck overlook area and the children's play. Phase 2 being field renovation and parking and entry and removing the cul-de-sac. Then phase 3 being the northern side of the park. You can see that the rough order of magnitude cost would be 10.5, 8.5, 12.2, over $30 million total in today's dollars. So that concludes my presentation. And I'd love to get your feedback. We thought that with a big group, it'd be better if we just turned over the boards and let you wander up and look at these things close up. And we're happy to chat with you. Again, we have these comment cards, and we want you to look to provide your comments that way, or tell us, and we'll write it down. And then, of course, we'll have all this online for you to comment on. So that concludes the presentation. So thank you.
Right, you have some tape, maybe you can go.
It's so weird. My dog is kind of like that.
Because, you know, if you're...
But some dogs, like this morning, I take him on bicycle rides every morning. He's exercise. And some dogs will see him when he's on a leash, and he's like, let me out, you know, even though off leash, he wouldn't do that.
There's no other item.
So when they do that, I think going up and down. So it's just more quickly at each other.
So it gives me the most flexibility and gives me a class. Otherwise, you know, I just because